Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. And Dorothy, school is officially out.
Yes, it is.
Graduation at Pinecrest was last weekend.
Nice.
And we had an occasion to have 2 guests on this week, which we want to call a celebration of achievement.
Okay. Sounds like a good time for that.
Yeah, it's a perfect time. We have 2 very distinguished ladies who are joining us today. Miss Elizabeth O'Brien, who is running for Miss North Carolina, and she is currently Miss Moore County. And in the second set, we're going to be speaking with graduating senior Keegan Foyles, who is on her way to Methodist with a full scholarship for both choral and lacrosse.
Okay.
When I told Keegan who our first guest was, she lit up and she said, I played lacrosse, or I was on the lacrosse team with her, I think when, Elizabeth, you were a senior and she was a freshman.
Yes.
You remember?
I do, yeah.
So you graduated Pinecrest what year?
2016.
Okay. You were a guest on the show back in 2014 when you were Miss Moore County's Outstanding Teen.
Yes, 5 years ago.
How many years before you won Miss Moore County's Outstanding Teen did you have training, coaching, counseling? Because this is not just something you say, I'm going to just do.
So my mom actually put me in pageants when I was 7 because I was extremely shy and I would hide behind her when people would talk to me. And we had just moved to North Carolina, and my mom's first friend was actually a pageant director, and she was like, get Elizabeth involved, it'll be great for her. And I actually didn't start competing as an actual contestant because I did the Carolina Princess program, which is the mentoring program. So I didn't start actually competing till I was 13. And then I believe I was 15 when I won Miss Moore County's Outstanding Teen.
Okay. When I first heard of you and found out about you, it was through Dee Shaw, who is the administrator and runs our office. And she was on, I guess, one of the committees. So she knew you way back when. And she said to me, she was really shy. Is that right?
Yes, I was. Almost embarrassing shy.
Were you, was the process of all the coaching that you received, did it help you move past that? How did all that evolve?
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with before I moved to North Carolina, because my dad's in the military, I moved so much that I was at that point where I was kind of scared to make friends because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have to move again. So I was just like, it's probably just easier not to talk to people. So I don't have to put myself up for failure almost. And so it wasn't until I actually realized that North Carolina was going to be my home, and I needed to make friends here. But then I also just became more comfortable and confident with who I was, which made it easier to talk to people as well.
That would be the byproduct of the entire process over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
How has the experience been being Miss Moore County and you're contesting or running for Miss North Carolina, which is on June the 22nd?
Yes. Being Miss Moore County has been amazing. We've lived here since I was 7, so we know so many people in Moore County that when you make one appearance, they're like, oh my gosh, can Elizabeth come to this? And of course I say yes, because I love Moore County, so I'm going to go and do it. And it's been so amazing to go into classrooms and to read stories and sign autographs and get pictures with the little kids. And then it's also great going to a retirement home. I actually went to the Southern Pines Gracious Living retirement home this past week, and the residents there were so great. I played the piano for them and, got pictures and stuff. So it's just been amazing representing my home, and especially representing my home at Miss North Carolina this coming week.
There, in looking at your resume and your accomplishments, there's an underbelly in all that you've accomplished of a servant's heart,
Oh, thank you.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You were the Miss America Community Service Award winner in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
You raised over $30,000 for Military Child Access Assistance and Development Program.
Yes.
Is that part of the Military Missions in Action that you spoke about
Yes.
way back in
Mm-hmm.
2014?
Yes. So actually, I've been volunteering with Military Missions in Action since I was 12. That's when I was introduced to it and just fell in love with the program and what they stand for. And they're dedicated to assisting veterans, either homeless or disabled, active duty servicemen, and their families. And when I first got involved in the organization, or nonprofit, they didn't really have any younger volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mike Dorman, who's the director of the Military Missions in Action, he came down one day and we had lunch, and I believe I was around 14 or 15, and he was like,
Way back when.
he was like,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, I really want to start a military child program, and since you're a military child, I think it'd be great if you kind of helped me co-run it and just get it going. And so we came up with the Military Child Access and Assistance Program, which is just like the pre-runner to the Military Child Access Assistance and Development Program, because back then we only were doing home modifications, where now we do more inclusion activities and stuff for kids too. So that's where the development program comes in. And in 2016, I was the Operation Homefront's Military Child of the Year for the Innovation Award, which was the inaugural year of the Booz Allen Hamilton sponsorship.
That's on page 4 of your list of accomplishments, by the way.
Yes. And so when I went to accept the award in Washington, D.C., the people from Booz Allen Hamilton, they were actually down in Pinehurst at a golf tournament, and they got people to donate $23,000 for our organization. And so then the other 7 just came from doing fundraisers, like Hike to Help that we hosted for 3 years, and just giving back to those less fortunate. Well, not less fortunate, but I've just been so blessed throughout my life that anything I can do to give back to those who need it, I do.
So when you started this in 2014,
Yes.
when you talked about Military Missions in Action, that was a program that you associated yourself with. 5 years later, you're still involved. So somewhere along the line, that went from doing something to maybe just to have a mission to a commitment.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, a genuine commitment because you've been consistent all these years.
Yes. I think one of the reasons that, because my mom, she also volunteers with them just because she pretty much goes with me whenever I go, because usually we do stuff on the weekends.
Right.
We first, really got involved in it because with my dad being in the Army, you never know if something's going to happen. And an organization like Military Missions in Action, they would be there if something were to happen. And we were also able to send care packages through Military Missions in Action overseas when my dad was deployed.
Has your dad been deployed often in the last 4 or 5 years?
Not in the last 4 or 5 years. So our military family is kind of unconventional because my mom, basically has been a single mom because we stayed in North Carolina, and my dad got stationed in Germany, Texas. He was deployed 3 times, Indiana most recently. But my mom and dad wanted my brother and I to graduate from the same high school. And so we kind of made that sacrifice. So, my dad, being the awesome dad he is, just went off and we stayed here.
So let's talk about your dad again for a minute. It's Father's Day weekend.
Yes.
And you're at a point where it's starting tomorrow. I think you go up to Raleigh for the week-long festivities.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about your dad's role over these years and the support and the inspiration.
So my dad is, he's a great guy. I don't know. I don't really know how else to describe him other than that, because he sacrificed so much for my brother and I. My brother's 23, and we both kind of grew up not really having that dad figure in our life just because he was gone so often.
Right.
But our family in general is so supportive and encouraging that my grandpa would step in. I remember, I think I was 7, I had a father-daughter dance, and my grandpa came from California and went with me. And, things like that just kind of made our family closer. And even my Uncle Chris, I had a Christmas party for Miss North Carolina. I mean, this was 4 years ago, and he took me because my dad wasn't here. And just little things like that made our family grow stronger, and it's because my dad did all this not only to protect us, but our nation.
And even though he might have been absent for some of these events, there's still something you get from him that translates into being supportive.
Yes, absolutely. It's so funny because he's never really been a pageant dad. But last year he really started to get more involved. I competed in a pageant and unfortunately I didn't win. And so we came home that night and my dad was like researching all these piano pieces that I could play. He's like, "Can you have a prop?" And I'm like, "Well, Dad, I'm going to be playing the piano. What kind of prop can I have?" He's like, "What if you had like 2 people come out and dance while you play the piano?" And I'm like, "I don't really know how that would work, but thanks thanks for the input." But he's just gotten a lot more involved since my brother and I have been older.
Tell me about the week coming up.
Yes.
Tell me about the categories, the events,
Okay.
and talk a little bit about some of the misperceptions that people have about pageants. Because you said your dad was not a pageant dad. I think there are a lot of people who are listening who are not pageant people.
Absolutely. So as Miss Moore County, I am leaving tomorrow to compete for Miss North Carolina, which is a part of the Miss America organization. So it's all scholarship earned dollars that I would win. So tomorrow, my mom and I are driving up to Raleigh because we have check-in early Monday morning at 8 a.m. at Memorial Auditorium. So we're checking in all my wardrobe, silent auction baskets, which Charlotte's Find Furnishings in Aberdeen donated our...
Nice plug.
Oh, yes, auction basket.
Well placed.
Thanks, Charlotte. And so we turn in all of that at 8 a.m. And then William Peace University is the official dorm provider, I guess you could say, for all the candidates competing. So right after we check in all my wardrobe, we'll head over to William Peace University and move me in.
Okay.
And then I'll say goodbye to my mom. And because from then on out, the hostesses for the Miss North Carolina pageant will take care of all 42 of us and, transport us to events. So Monday basically will just be rehearsals. And then Tuesday, we do private interviews. So there's a panel of judges who will conduct a 10-minute private interview with each 42 contestants. And that will be all day Tuesday and then half day Wednesday because there's, 42. It takes a long time.
What do you think they're
Yes.
looking for in the interviews?
I think they just want to get to know the girl.
Okay.
So they just want to, know what you stand for and make sure you're well educated on the world. So, of course, they'll ask some current event questions, but they'll also ask questions off our resumes and about our social impact initiative, which mine is the Military Missions in Action.
Right.
And then Wednesday, we'll start the actual onstage competition. So Wednesday, I'll compete in an onstage interview. So it's just 1 minute, and the judge will ask you a question, and if you answer it in under a minute, they'll ask you another question. Basically going along the same lines as the first one, but just so each candidate has a whole minute. So I'll do that Wednesday, and then Thursday I'll compete in talent, which, like I said earlier, I play the piano. And then Friday I'll compete in evening gown, and then on Saturday, 8 p.m., ABC 11 is the live Miss North Carolina competition, which they will announce the top 15. And then the top 15 will basically do a whole pageant again.
On Sunday.
Saturday. That's Saturday.
That's all going to happen on Saturday.
Yes.
42 representatives from approximately 100 counties in North Carolina.
Basically,
so
yes.
some are combined or okay.
Yeah, it's just basically any volunteer in the Miss America organization can start a franchise. And luckily for me, there's a Miss Moore County franchise. But there's like a Miss Charlotte, Miss Mecklenburg County, all the way to Miss Outer Banks and Miss Wilmington.
Okay.
So there's a good majority of the state represented.
Anybody that started at age 7 went through this process and is in the pageant business or has learned humility at a young age.
Yes.
It's not always about always winning.
Mm-mm.
It's a lot of heartbreak.
Yes.
Can you talk about some of the
Sure.
good and the bad memories that you've had?
So, like I said in the beginning, I was very shy, so that's why I started doing pageants.
Right.
And I didn't win a pageant until I was 12. So, 5 years of losing, really breaks you down. But only makes you stronger.
Right.
Because you learn, okay, so I need to do this better. Okay, I need to do this better, maybe change this. But still all figuring out who you are as a person.
Right.
And then those moments when you do win, you're like,
Right.
it was all worth it.
Right.
And especially in the Miss America organization, it's all scholarship based. So I've received scholarship money through my winnings, which has been great because I attend a private university, which is expensive.
Tell me a little bit about, you have a couple of different leadership roles at High Point.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be a senior.
Yes.
You're a mentor. You're a treasurer in your sorority.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, so I actually last year served as the vice president philanthropy for my sorority. So I was able to help raise money for our foundation, which the Alpha Gamma Delta Foundation supports fighting hunger. And attending High Point University, High Point community is a food desert. So there's a lot of individuals who suffer from being hungry. Mm-hmm. So it's great for our sorority because we were able to collect items to donate to a local food pantry that's not even half a mile off campus. We were able to, this past year, we were able to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and go and deliver, work with backpack buddies, so many things because our community needed it. And so that was really beneficial for our sorority. And it's just great to give back to our local community.
It sounds like giving back has become a byproduct of all your training.
Yeah, I think so.
You've sort of gotten to that other side,
Mm-hmm.
but that has started to become who you are.
Yes.
And that's not going to stop after the pageant is over.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Where do you see Elizabeth O'Brien in 5 years?
So,
what do you hope to see?
I am in college to be an elementary education teacher.
Okay.
And I'm completing my 5th year master's. So 2020 I'll graduate, and then 2021 I'll graduate with my master's in elementary education. So I hope to see myself in my own classroom, teaching the young minds. But I also hope to be, when you grow up and you just have that one teacher who just changes your life, that's who I want to be.
So that's really important, what you just said, because people today, you can remember like it was yesterday, maybe a 5th grade teacher that left an impression.
My 5th grade teacher.
Is that right? Did I catch
Miss Mashburn.
That was just a lucky guess.
Yeah.
It could have been 6th grade, it could have been 5th grade, but those teachers leave impressions on you that stay with you all your life.
Yes. Yeah, and so for me, I think I knew I wanted to be a teacher since I was 7.
Oh.
But in 5th grade, Miss Mashburn, because I had dyslexia, and luckily they caught it early enough, so I was able to go to a specialist and get it corrected as quickly as possible. But I hated reading. And I remember Miss Mashburn, for some reason, I don't know what she did, but she just kind of turned that switch for me, and I didn't dread it anymore. And she made something that was so difficult for me become not easy, but...
Is she still teaching?
No, she unfortunately retired.
Okay.
But Yeah, she's amazing.
So your goal to be memorable to your students
Yes.
is a very noble goal.
Well, thank you.
That's a very noble goal. You formed friendships throughout with some of the contestants. You know many of them.
Yes.
You've kind of formed a sorority of sorts, a club that,
Basically.
yeah. If people can go onto your Facebook page, and it seems like every day you are out and not just
try.
every day, but every hour
I
of
try.
every day.
Yes.
I'm exhausted trying to keep up.
Yeah.
And do you sleep?
I do because I love to sleep.
Really?
Oh, yes.
What time do you sleep? Like at 3, 4 in the morning for an hour or two?
No, I usually go to bed around 9 or 10, but then I wake up at 6 or
Okay.
7.
Okay.
Well, depending on the night, because sometimes, some nights, you're staying up till 10:30.
What do you tell aspiring 3rd, 4th, 5th graders today who might look at you and say, I want to emulate, I want to go this route? What kind of words of wisdom can you provide?
I would just say to figure out who you are,
Right.
because that if you can do that at a young age, you're set for the rest of your life. But don't try to emulate anyone else because you're made the way you're supposed to be. And for a long time, I was trying to be someone I wasn't. And so once I figured out who Elizabeth O'Brien was,
Who are you trying to be? And now I'm curious.
I don't know. It could have been anyone at that age. But just like once I figured out who I was and what I liked to do
Okay.
and how I liked to dress, I remember in like 6th grade, I would wear glitter skirts to middle school and I would get made fun of. And so then I wouldn't wear them anymore. But I like glitter and I like sparkles, so I'm going to wear it. And so once I figured out, what I like and who I am, life has been not so much better, but it's been so much easier to pursue what I want.
Okay. Very quickly, what is one of the most memorable experiences you've had this last year as Miss Moore County?
So in April of this past year,
Right.
I was one of 8 who was selected to be on the Azalea Festival Queen's Court. So there was, I think, 21 or 22 of us competing for Miss North Carolina who actually applied to be on the Queen's Court. And you get to go to Wilmington, and it's, I think, a 5-day festival. And we were treated like royalty, but it was just such an amazing experience because you got to meet so many patrons of the Azalea Festival and just so many people who love North Carolina as much as all 8 of us did or do. And it was an experience that I think I'll take with me the rest of my life because I've never done anything like that, and I don't think I ever will.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck this coming week.
Thank you.
And people can tune in on Saturday.
Saturday, 8 p.m., ABC 11.
Okay. And between now and then, they can also vote online for the People's Choice Award.
Yes, abc11.com/MissNC.
Congratulations on
Thank you.
carrying your mantle so well and
Thank you so much.
for working towards serving others.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. We'll be back in a minute. Thank you. Welcome to the second half of our show. We've decided to break this up into 2 sets today. Our second guest is Keegan Foyles. Keegan just graduated from Pinecrest High School. Like Elizabeth, her resume is ridiculous, especially when they compare it to what I brought to the table many years ago, but I'm getting used to it. She, not only did she graduate with honors, she received a full scholarship to Methodist University, both for choral music and for lacrosse. Multi-purpose, very unusual combination. I've had the privilege of knowing Keegan all her life, and I've seen her in different phases of her life as she's grown. And I tell the story, Keegan, all the time about you. One of my most vivid images of you was you riding your bicycle at 10 years old with the purpose of the leader of the free world up and down the street. You were disciplined, you were focused, you were straight on ahead, and little did I know that all of those qualities that you showed, you have made a transfer into a very successful high school career. And I think it all came to fruition, didn't it, when the athletic director of Methodist and the choral director came to the high school and surprised you with the scholarship?
Well, it was the choral director and the vocal instructor from Methodist.
Okay.
And then they came to the choir room and they walked in and presented me with a full scholarship. I had no idea it was happening. And then my mom, my sisters, and I went up and committed to the Methodist athletic director and lacrosse coach. So, yeah, a lot for one day.
Last week was your high school graduation. You look back on those 4 years. Do you say to yourself, mission accomplished?
Yes. I am very glad to be done with it. It was a long 4 years and a short 4 years at the same time.
Right. High school can be like that.
Yeah.
It gets better, and it gets more complicated. But as you get older, you get to handle things easier, I think. Music, big part of your life.
Oh yeah, one of the biggest.
From the time you were,
Oh gosh,
all you
I don't
can
know.
remember.
Yeah, since I can remember, really.
Yeah, you were on the show back in February. We had you come on when we had Lucas Meacham on, the baritone, and he sat here and he was, he's world known, and he said something to you. He said, I look at you and I'm jealous, I'm envious, because of the stage that you're at. He could look back. He went to Union Pines High School and graduated in the 90s, but he looked at you and we played one of your clips of one of your solos. And he was very complimentary. And it was good for you just to witness him.
Oh, he was an amazing person. I could barely believe that he was there.
And you remember, before you even met him, you saw something about him on YouTube without even knowing it was him.
Yeah, I actually auditioned for college with a French song, and I watched one of his videos on how to pronounce French vowels and how to sing with resonance in French.
That's it. Exactly. Talk to me a little bit about your early inspirations that got you in the direction of choral music.
Oh gosh. Well, of course, the first one that comes to mind is my mom.
Yep.
She just really jump-started my musical career. She was musical throughout her high school career, and then she went to law school, and she kind of lost that. But then she got it back when I was about 6 or 7, and that's when I started to want to be like my mom, of course, and I saw her playing piano, and I was like, well, I want to do that. And so she put me with a piano teacher. And then one Easter Sunday, I saw my best friend, Caroline Bruton, up there singing with the kids' choir from our church. And I was like, well, why am I not doing that? And so then I joined choir. So that's really how I got my start in both piano and choir.
Today, as you spend the summer between your high school and the beginning of your college career, you look back and you see your mom, you see Caroline Bruton, other people that influenced you in music as well?
Yeah, so Miss Terry, Dr. Terry Sinclair, is one of my mom's best friends. When people ask me who she is, I basically call her my aunt because that's how close we are. And she, of course, has her doctorate in music, and she has just been an example for me to follow, really, from the time I was 6. And Miss Slink, or I guess it's Miss Pollock now, she got married recently at the high school. She's the one who really made me want to be a teacher, is watching her teach and learning what that can affect a child's life. And so I decided that that's what I wanted to do. So both of them have also been huge and influential in my musical development.
It's also Father's Day weekend.
Yeah.
And your dad, he's no small potatoes. I mean, he has had a big influence on you, I'm sure, in many ways.
Yes. My dad was in an advanced choir in high school.
I didn't know that.
Neither did we.
Okay.
And he supports in a lot of ways. Music is not one of them, but that's okay. That's okay.
Your dad, but you know what? You get from your dad, he's so proud. That feeling of support, it's always there, isn't it?
It's always there.
Yeah, that's what they call unconditional love, unconditional support.
Yeah.
So you had a graduation party last weekend, which I was delighted to come to. And I got a chance to talk to your mom and dad, your grandparents, and to your grandmother, Pat. And I get from the three of them, their support for you is beyond anything. All of them.
Yeah, they are just, I adore all of them, all three of them. They're just amazing people.
Right.
And I really don't have a negative thing to say about any one of them. Just their influence on my life has been
right.
insane.
How did you get involved in lacrosse? Because it is so unusual to have two interests that seem so different.
Yeah. Well, I started out playing softball. Well, no. First of all, I played soccer when I was like 3, and my dad coached my team. And you can only imagine how that went. I was scared of people looking at me, and so I didn't want to go onto the field.
Right.
Yes, and so it was obviously a major issue. The whole playing thing didn't really work out.
So we should say up front that your dad is the father of 3 daughters.
Yes.
No sons.
No.
Okay. Okay.
To his disappointment.
I think he's okay, but
I think he's okay now, but he wanted a son.
so he was your softball coach.
He was my soccer coach, and then
soccer coach.
He signed me up for softball after that, and softball was great and all, but I liked to run, so I liked to run around the bases. But the problem was I couldn't really get onto the bases. I couldn't really hit, so I figured if I didn't swing at the ball, eventually, I'd either get hit with the ball or there would be too many bad throws and I'd just get to go onto the base. That strategy did not work. Mm-hmm. And then in the field, I stood in the outfield because I wasn't very good at that either. And I was so bored, you sit there and you watch. I was like, am I supposed to watch the game,
Right.
So nothing was going on in my neck of the woods, and so I just sat there and dazed out. And then when a ball actually did come, I was thinking about what I was having for dinner that night, and
you weren't focused.
No.
But you, that little girl that I saw on the bicycle, was hyper focused.
Well, probably because my legs were moving. That's why lacrosse is such a good fit for me, is because you're always moving. There is no spot where you can just stop. You
right.
can't stop, and that's what really makes me love lacrosse. Is I can never stop paying attention to the game, because if you do, you're gonna get hurt badly.
Yep.
Somebody's gonna throw a ball at you or step on you.
Lacrosse it's not. Some sports you have to initiate the movement to start the action. But in lacrosse, you have to react at all times because you're in constant motion.
Yes. That's really what got me into it, is that when you're riding your bike, when you're running, when you're playing lacrosse, you're moving. And anybody that knows me knows that I have the attention span of goldfish. So if I'm not moving or doing something, then I'm not there.
So somehow, some way, you wound up becoming second team all conference, and just recently you played in an all-star game up in was it Durham or Chapel Hill?
It was Durham. It was the Bull City All-Star game.
Okay.
And yeah, that was a really fun day.
Yeah. You scored a goal?
About 42 girls from around North Carolina played against each other, and it was just a really good experience to get to play with different people.
How'd you measure up? Were you nervous?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Were you nervous?
Yes.
How did you perform?
Well, my first instinct in a situation like that is, wow, I really don't belong here. What am I doing here?
Right.
And then eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to have some fun. And that's when I start to let loose. And that's eventually what caused me to score the goal. That was my last shift in, actually. The rest of the time I was like, hey, guys.
Maybe they looked at you. Some of the players looked at you and felt the same thing. Like, how am I going to measure up to Keegan Foyles?
Well, there were state champions on that team and Cardinal Gibbons and
right.
big dogs. And Pinecrest, well, we've only had a varsity team for 4 or 5 years now. So
right.
I definitely felt like an underdog there.
Okay. Something I asked Elizabeth in the first set, I want to ask you, because you've had success in lacrosse. You've had success with your choral activities. However, it was also very humbling because you met with a lot of defeat early on, setbacks. Can you talk a little bit, especially in music, about some of the early on setbacks and how that changed you?
Yeah, so in middle school, all I wanted was to get into the middle school honors chorus. It's a North Carolina state thing. Kids from all around the state audition. Only about 120 make it a year. And I auditioned 7th and 8th grade year, and I didn't get in either time, which really upset me.
Two-time loser
yes.
so far. Okay, that's what you thought.
Then 9th grade year, no freshmen at the high school were allowed to audition for the high school version of this choir.
Okay.
So 9th grade, I kind of got a break, got to build myself up a little bit. And then 10th grade, I re-auditioned. I was like, okay, 3 times the charm now. So I got to make it. And I did not. I actually got my score sheet back, and I missed it by 1 point that year.
Okay.
So I put that score sheet in the front of my binder for choir and for voice lessons and whatever else musically I was participating in. And that score sheet was with me every single day to remind me how close I was to making that choir.
Is that something you did on your own? Just put that reminder there?
Yeah, I kind of was like, you know what? I'm going to stare this paper in the eye until it's afraid of me. So.
Okay, so that's really impressive because not everyone reacts that way. Maybe they'll shirk responsibility or kind of run away from something if they're not successful. You made it motivate you and push you further.
Yeah, it definitely motivated me.
So where did you get that from?
I'm guessing my parents. They're both overachievers.
I agree.
They are both highly motivated and driven, and so I guess that's where I got that from. That's the only place where I could have gotten that from.
Remember that purposeful 10-year-old on the bicycle that I saw?
Well,
you had it then.
Yeah. My dad said, don't ride your bike if you're not going to do it with a purpose. So
Is that what he said?
I took him very literally.
Even to this day?
Yep. When you see me riding my bike, I'll just I'll be staring at the road ahead of me, just gripping the handlebars.
You had, remember I told you had the magic? Remember I told you that? maybe you don't know why, but it's so obvious to me that you do. So you had a couple of setbacks, but you eventually got into the governor's school.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
I got into the 2017 North Carolina Governor's School.
What is the governor's school?
It's like nerd camp. Is the best way I can describe it. They split us into 2 campuses. So I think there were like 700 overall kids in North Carolina that were chosen in multiple different specialties. There was orchestra, choir, social science, math, English. There were so many different areas of specialty. And so these 700 kids were split between 2 campuses. One was east at Meredith College, and one was west is best, at Winston-Salem, what's it called? Salem College. And so you're really there with 350 of some of the smartest people in North Carolina. And it was so much fun. I mean, here at prom, they play music that I don't know, and like, it's terrible music in my opinion.
Right.
But they played Mamma Mia at Nerd Camp, so
Wow.
You gotta weigh.
Tell me about the music you like to listen to.
Well, funny story about that. When I was doing my scholarship audition for Methodist, they asked me the same thing.
Oh.
With a camera about 3 feet away from my face, they asked me, what kind of music do you listen to? And, I thought I was being funny when I said, well, I don't listen to top 50 because I listen to choral music 24/7. Well, they all started laughing, and I thought they were laughing at my wit, I get out of the room, I tell my mom what happened. She goes, you moron, it's top 40. Of course they thought, well... Of course they laughed. I guess you got your point across, though. You know?
Right.
Well,
you've performed. I've seen lots of postings on social media, many solos. You've performed with your mom and your 2 sisters in some of the choral work that you do, and you have a gorgeous voice, but your voice changes.
Yeah.
And you have to work through that, don't you?
Yes. So it really is a big adjustment when your voice changes, because like in middle school your voice is going to be breathy, and then in high school you can really come out of that and find some resonance, and even after high school your voice is always changing due to your age, and so it's something that you really have to learn to adjust to.
Right. How do you relax?
Well,
when you take a break, right? If it's not lacrosse, or if it's not choir, if you're not pushing yourself, how do you kick back and say, I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm just going to enjoy the moment?
Well, one of my favorite things to do is I like to take whatever piano song my mom is working on at the moment and learn it and play it as fast as I can on the piano, even though it sounds terrible. I'm a big fan of Netflix. Big Netflix fan.
Okay.
I don't know. Most of my de-stressing, I think that what makes me love music so much is that my de-stressing is music.
Okay.
So when I say that I go and I bang on the piano for an hour,
makes sense.
That is what de-stresses me.
Today, you're going to be home till August when you go to Methodist, right?
Yes.
Okay. You take some time for reflection and you look back over your 4-year career at Pinecrest and maybe even in middle school. What do you tell your 13-year-old self? Or what do you tell students, 6th, 7th, 8th grade students who have wishes and dreams and hopes and aspirations to help them, whether it be in music or another discipline?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest lessons that I learned in high school was that there's a point that you reach in whatever you're working on, whether it be music, lacrosse, school, anything, where you have to take a step back. And when I went through everything with honors chorus, I realized that sitting there obsessing over the music for 6 hours a day was what held me back. So when I stopped doing that, that's when I got in. And so that's just a big lesson that you need to know when to stop.
Okay, that's a good lesson. And would you say that to yourself now? That you still need to know when to stop?
I still say, okay, Keegan, you've been doing this for 2 hours. You need to stop, because at that point it's detrimental. It's not helping. I'm just stressing myself out.
You have two sisters who are very supportive, Lauren and Caden. They're going to be juniors or sophomores.
Yeah.
And you guys have performed together. You're all very close. Your family is very close. You've had a great support system. Yet you're close enough that you can come home and visit.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going halfway across the country, right?
That's definitely something that I factored into my decision.
Is that right?
Yes.
See, when I went to college, I was trying to go to California. My mom and dad were in New Jersey. I said, I'll go to Oregon. No, I'll just pick a map, a state somewhere far away. But you always look forward to coming home.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people are very proud of you. And you're a very talented young lady. And you have personality to spare. You really do.
Thank you.
You always have. And you probably always will. So we just want to wish you the best of luck at Methodist, and you have passions to pursue at an age when a lot of students don't have passions. So for that, you're very fortunate. That's a gift.
Thank you.
Right. We want to wish you the best of luck at Methodist.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you come on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, Keegan. We've had two exceptional ladies join us today, and it's a privilege for me to be able to share a little bit of time with them. They're both just so proactive, and you make me wish I was kind of more like that as a student, but I wasn't. This is All Things Moore County. We will talk with you next week. Thank you.